Skies of Arcadia has good vibes. While the mechanics of the game aren't anything special, what really shines here are the Saturday morning cartoon vibes. The game was developed and published by SEGA and was first released in 2000 for the Dreamcast before being re-released in 2003 on the GameCube as Skies of Arcadia Legends. Many years later, this game still elicits many a fond memory for JRPG fans, and in this video I'll be detailing 8 reasons why Skies of Arcadia's good vibes will never be forgotten. Point 1. The colourful cast. In Skies of Arcadia you play as Weiss and Ica, two lovable, thrill-seeking, swashbuckling sky pirates. Their boundless enthusiasm and thirst for adventure sets them off on a typical save-the-world plot to retrieve moon crystals from all 4 corners of the sky before the nefarious Valuan Empire do. Interactions between party members are kept short and sweet, and the writers do a good job of extracting lots of comedy out of Weiss and Ica's hijinks, Fina's formalness, and Drachma's stubborn father figure persona. It helps too that the party gets to bounce off many other colourful and exaggerated pirate personalities like these guys. Some characters you meet along the journey are greedy, others are gluttonous, most are gregarious. In fact, they all seem pretty carefree, gleefully pursuing their passion. So many JRPGs are self-serious, dark and mysterious. Skies of Arcadia is too busy having fun to spend much time doing any of that. The best example of the game's carefree nature is this. Point 2. Cartoon villains. Check out this cast of ne'er-do-wells. They are all exaggerated and inept in their own ways, full of expressions telegraphing their contempt, their villainy, or their frustration when yet another plan is thwarted by a band of heroes. Alfonso is possibly my favourite of the cast. His pompous demeanour is accentuated perfectly by his costume and character animations. Each villain gets a decent chunk of time in the spotlight and they are consistently a high point within each of the island's narrative arcs. Weiss and the gang can even bounty hunt optional villains with the game's wanted list. One of my favourite scenes in the whole game is this one, in which the villain Beliza has just lost an airship battle and then parleys with the party. There's no sense of threat or malice here. Beliza is not trying to murder anyone and the heroes aren't trying to put her in jail. Their rivalry is surface level. They are in conflict because one group are the goodies and the other are the baddies. Each group plays their part in this pantomime and each group has fun doing it. Point 3. Optimism. So yeah, the vibes are pretty positive. Listen to this sound when the player picks the right dialogue option. And check out this secret high-five handshake combination. I think the portion of the game that best epitomises the game's optimism is this section about 1/3 through the game, where Weiss gets split up from Ica and Fina. Weiss finds himself stranded on a desert island and is thrilled to put his survival skills to the test. Weiss finds food, wooden sticks to make a smoke signal, and he even makes a small lifeboat before being rescued by the debonair Lothario Gilda. Meanwhile, Ica and Fina are rescued by this eccentric sky pirate who loves everything pink. This section sees the party at their worst, ripped apart from each other, having to tackle their biggest setback yet, and still they appear motivated and cheery. Throughout the narrative, there are a few moments of contemplation and worry here and there, but ultimately the character's relentless optimism helps drive the plot forever forwards, and ensures the player does not wait too long for the next entertaining scenario. Point 4. The 3D environments. The late 90s and early 2000s were an interesting time for the games industry to get used to working with 3D spaces, with most of the critical analysis being placed on Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Half-Life. Meanwhile, most Japanese role-playing games opted for pre-rendered backgrounds, fixed camera angles, and top-down perspectives. Yet here's Skies of Arcadia, a trailblazer within the genre, handing out complex town and dungeon 3D geometry with a third-person camera. This viewpoint contributes to the good vibes because so many of the multi-tiered environments are laden with these little nooks and crannies hiding rare and valuable items. Oh, and as a side note, here's something I don't think I've seen in any other game before. Each town and dungeon has its own unique chest designs. That's some real attention to detail. Speaking of attention to detail, Point 5. The towns. So this entry ties in quite closely with the previous one about impressive 3D environments. Each town is colourful, thematically distinct, elaborately constructed. Each one is a treat for the eyes, the ears and the brain. However, the real standout of the towns are the townsfolk. They don't do much other than say the same few dialogue boxes, but nonetheless I'm in love with their designs. Just take a look at them. Point 6. The sky. Skies of Arcadia reminds me a lot of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Both games evoke a childlike sense of wonder and discovery through means in which the player explores the world. Exploring by boat is always fun, charting your own course from one location to another, seeing the next destination slowly come into view. It's all really good stuff. Though I will admit I was a little bummed out when I realised that in Skies of Arcadia there are no real optional islands. Instead there are these things called discoveries, which are identified when your compass starts spinning out of control. The game keeps track of these discoveries and provides a nice illustration and flavour text for each one. They are pretty cool, but having just one or two optional explorable islands would have been a real treat. One aspect of the game I do love though is the way the map is designed. Thick clouds and bands of rock are just some of the natural hazards that the player comes across when exploring. Each hazard helps funnel the player from one location to the next, and each one acts as a shortcut when the player is powerful enough to get through each of them. One of the most memorable early journeys in the game is this long, perilous trip through the cyclones. Not sure whether to turn back and restock, or stick to your guns and plow on through. It's a pretty memorable and treacherous journey, and it feels really good when you get a shortcut that allows you to cut that journey in half. Point 7. Simplicity. Much like the game's narrative, the battle system in Skies of Arcadia is pretty simple and elegantly designed. Battles are turn-based. Any character can learn any of the 36 magic spells by equipping their weapon with one of the 6 coloured moons, with these 6 colours also acting as the game's elemental system. What makes each character unique are their super useful special moves. Check these out.
Alpha Storm! Cutlass Fury! Flametiverse! Rain of Thorn!
These special moves are unlocked from finding moonberries hidden in chests. The fact that the moonberries are hidden helps incentivize exploration over just merely grinding for experience. In battle, characters gain special points at the end of each turn, and these points contribute to a pool that is shared between the whole party. Characters can use the focus command to gain additional special points more quickly, and unlike in most Japanese role-playing games, the defend command is pretty useful. As it does not cost any special points to use, it halves all incoming damage and it increases the chance of your character performing a counterattack when hit. Add to this a very loose positioning system, challenging boss battles, and a great emphasis on buffs, debuffs and status effects, and we have a battle system that has a very nice blend of strategy and unpredictability. The battle system doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it is accessible, well balanced and engaging. And this simplicity fits in well with the game's ethos. It's not about spending hours in menus grappling with complex character builds, it's about the adventure. Skies of Arcadia is a game that you love with your heart, not with your head. Point 8. The ships. So along with the typical on-foot battles, there are also a handful of these set-piece ship battles. These battles have their own mechanics. The player can deck out their ship with a variety of cannons, and from around the halfway point onwards, there are over 20 optional crew members to recruit, each with their own special commands and abilities. These ship battles fit in perfectly with the game's aesthetic, however they are not the strongest part of the game. This is owed to how drawn out battles can feel, combined with the fact that the game has a habit of stacking several ship battles one after another, sometimes without even an opportunity to save in between each battle. Though I get the feeling that the main draw of these ship battles is more to do with the spectacle. I mean, who doesn't want to be a captain of a flying pirate ship fighting giant kaiju monsters in the sky? Oh, and the other highlight of the ship battles is seeing all these unique ship designs that each of the villains has. Check these out. So that's my list and that's my review. What do you guys think of Skies of Arcadia? Is it one of your favourites or is it a game that you've always wanted to play? I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope to see you next time.